Hi everyone, this is Chris Motuma from eTeach Programming. In this video, we will look at JavaScript Object Constructors and JavaScript Prototypes. Without further ado, let's begin. So it is considered good practice to name constructor functions with an uppercase first letter. Now note here guys, we are not creating a normal object. Here we are creating an object constructor function. And this is how we create a JavaScript object constructor function. We are going to start with the function keyword because it is an object constructor function, so it is a function. And then our function name, or rather our constructor function, we are going to name it starting with the first letter as an uppercase. So I'm going to create a function car. Okay, function, then space, then use capital C, then car, then the normal way a function is created. Now this is how you create a JavaScript object constructor function. But now inside these brackets, we are going to have what we call parameters. So we are going to pass parameters to this function car. And the first parameter is name. The second is model. The third is color. And the fourth is year. Now, we are going now to use this keyword to assign our names to something. So guys, if you remember how we create a normal JavaScript object is by using the const keyword, which is again considered good practice. And then we could have used maybe let's use that, but here doesn't matter. You can just use small small letters or capital letters, and then we would use our braces here, and then here we could now say name and then use a colon. So name is our property, and then whatever we assign here name, let's say BMW, then we used a comma so that we could go. So this is the first one is the property and the second one is the value. So this is how to create a JavaScript object. But here now guys, we are creating a JavaScript object constructor function. And to create that, that's why we are using the function keyword. Then it is good practice to name our constructor functions. The first letter should be uppercase, and then we pass in parameters, and then inside now our function car, we use the this keyword, which refers to the owner of the function, and in our case here it is car. So we could have used car here, dot name, and then equals name. Again, I also want you to see the difference from this and what we had earlier. When we are creating a JavaScript object, we separate the properties using a colon, but creating JavaScript object constructor function, we separate the value, that is the property and the value, using the assignment operator, which is the equal sign. And then we terminate that statement with a semicolon, other than using a comma. All right. So I'm going to revert back here to this. So as I've said, this refers to the owner. Then this dot model. Then I'll give it a name model again. Then this dot color. I'll give it the color value. And then this dot here. I'll give it here. So guys, whatever parameter we have here, you can see now the color is the same. So if just comment that out. You can see it grays out. That doesn't mean that you're going to get any error while running your code. Your code will run perfectly because you chose not to use the parameter that you passed in your function. So what we are going to do here, we have been able to create a JavaScript object constructor function. So this is how we create a JavaScript object constructor function. By use of the function keyword, then the name of our function should start with the first letter being an uppercase. All right, so it is good practice. So you can name it even with lowercase, it doesn't matter, but it is good practice to name constructor functions and follow the industry standard, or rather what most of the developers normally do. So that's the side. So guys, we are looking at creating JavaScript object constructor function, which we've seen. We use the function keyword, then the function name, and we pass parameters, and then we use the this keyword, then the dot notation, then our parameter, and assign it a value, which is a name. So guys, we are going to see now the next thing, which is object type. What is an object type? So the way to create an object type is by using an object constructor function. So objects of the same type are created by calling the object constructor function with a new keyword. So guys, if you remember in our previous video on JavaScript objects, which I am going to link on the description of this video, we talked of different ways of creating a JavaScript object. And yes, as we looked at creating JavaScript object using object retro, but there is a second way of creating JavaScript object by use of the new keyword. So this is what we are going to see here. So when you're creating a JavaScript object constructor function, you use object types, and these object types are of the same type. All right, so they are created by calling the object constructor function, which is our car function, with a new keyword. So let's create okay, let's create objects of the same type. Objects of the same type. So to create this, we are going to use the const keyword. Then I'm going to call it my car, the variable. All right, this is a variable I'm creating, and then I'm going to assign now the objects of the same type as the value by use of the new keyword that we are going to call the object constructor function using the new keyword. So do new, and then our car, all right, which is our constructor function. And then now here we are going now to use brackets, and then inside these brackets we are going now to pass arguments. So we are going to give arguments inside this new car object. So we are going to let's first start with the first one. Let's call it Benz. Then the second. So this is the name. All right. This name we are giving it Benz. Then the model we are giving it E250. Then we have the color. We can go with maybe white, and then the year we can say it is 2018. Right. So the year here, guys, is the manufacturer here. All right. So now we are creating objects of the same type by calling the constructor function with a new keyword. So we have created a my car. So guys, I'm going to come here. Let me just first of all save this. I'm going to come to my terminal. Guys, you already know how to open your console. So I go to my console here, rather not the terminal. Then you're going to look at the type of my car, And guys, you can see it is of object type. So you can see when you look at the type of this variable my car, you get object. Let's see if we look at type of car. So if you look at type of car, it gives you a type of function. So this is a constructor function, rather it is of data type function. All right. So I hope that is clear, guys. So now, guys, the next thing that I wanted us to look at is adding a property to an object constructor function. Yes, we have created these object types. We are going to see how we are going to use this this variable my car to get the name, the model, the color, the year. All right. So let's move on and we look at adding a property, which is our third item here. So we are going to look at that, adding a property to an object constructor function. All right. So how do we add a property to an object constructor function? So something else here that I want you guys to note is that it is different from how we do it when we are adding a new property to a normal object that we have created using an object return. So we will not add, let's say for example, we want to add a manufacturer, the manufacturer of this car here, this car. So we cannot say car dot manufacturer, and perhaps most of you are thinking this, and then use the assignment operator and then say Mercedes. Let's go. So we cannot add manufacturer, or rather this property manufacturer, to our constructor function by use of this method. When you do car.manufacturer and we console log now, which is, remember now this is our object types, and we said these are objects of the same type. Okay, so if we console log this, let's see what we get. If we console log my car, remember my car owns the types. Okay, and remember my car now is our variable here, then dot manufacturer. This should give us undefined. It is undefined, so we are getting undefined. So here we can even say here we will get undefined. So but if we added the manufacturer directly to the variable my car, which has our constructor function, we are going to say manufacturer, and then we give we assign the value to Mercedes. Right. So if let me copy this, we want the same. So if we console log that, you can see it is giving us a Mercedes. And in fact, if we did console log my car to get the object definition, you can see that here already we have our manufacturer here. Okay, but here if we did console log car, which remember is a function, and saved that, it will give us the same thing because we have already added this Mercedes through use of my car. But if this was not there and we saved that, you can see still we are going to get undefined because this is not how we add a property to an object constructor function. Hope guys that is clear. So this will give us the undefined. So to add a new property to a constructor, I'm going to copy this. So let's get rid of this. And this one I'll call it car1. Alright. So for us to be able to add a property to an object constructor function, we must add it into the object constructor function. So we must come here and say this dot manufacturer okay equals to, then see this. So guys, I want you to know I'm just doing this for illustration purposes. So in any case, you could have come here and added it down there. All right. So but I'm doing that so that you can see the difference. Okay. So if we save that and we console log, that is car. What should we get? This gives us undefined. All right. So this gives us the function definition. If you're not now using, if you don't use now the function, you're using the function car itself without the brackets, it will give us the function definition, which you can see here. Now, I want to do the same on the second car. And before I save this, I want you to look at the difference here. So there is no manufacturer here. But if I save this, the second one has manufacturer. All right. So let me just do something here again to make sure that we are understanding what we are doing. So car dot manufacturer, all right, equals Mercedes, and then we save that. So you can see that this car function has not added the manufacturer as the second one, because now this is the right way of adding a new property to an object constructor function. So I'm going to stress this. Adding a new property to an object constructor function, you must add it to the object constructor function itself. So you must come in here and do this dot, then the property, all right, and you assign it your desired value. So this is not the right way to add a property to our object constructor function. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of that. All right, guys. So the next thing that we are going to look at is adding a method to an object constructor function. Adding a method to an object constructor function. Yep, this is supposed to be a comment. All right, so we have this part here. Now, it is still the same way. The way you add a constructor, that is a new property to an object constructor function, is still the same way you're going to add a new method to an object constructor function. So guys, remember methods are functions within objects, or functions inside objects. That's what we refer to as methods. So you cannot add a new method to an object constructor function the same way you add a new method to an existing object. And when you're talking of an existing object, we are talking of if you can add to this the way, just come and say my car dot, you know, the name of the method. So you cannot do it, okay, because this is an existing object, and we are creating this object by use of the new keyword, or when you use object retros, as I had just stated earlier. So how do we add this method to an object constructor function? So I'm going to copy this, and this is for illustration purposes. So in a case, you could have added this property here, and again the method in still here. So, but for illustration purposes, it's good to have different scenarios here. So in this one now, we are going now to add a method that will give us both name and model. So we're going to use this dot. Remember that this keyword name model equals to. So a method is a function inside an object. So the same way here, it is function. All right. Create an empty function there. Then we can terminate that using that. And then we return this again. So this keyword refers to the owner of name model. Remember, name model here is just a property. So who is the owner of property name model? Is car2. So this is the owner. Okay, car2 is the this in this case. So we want name. We use the concatenate operator plus. Then we get some space. Then we use the concatenate operator again. Then this dot model, and then we terminate that statement. So here what we are saying is we would like to get a result of the name and the model. So in this case, we are supposed to get Benz E250. Okay, Benz E250. But now I have to create another object type below here, because remember, here we are just doing it for illustration purposes. So I have to have my car2 here. This also car2. Please remember, should be the same as the function constructor. That is our object constructor function. So here we have our car2. Now I want us to console log our name model, rather our method. So we are going to console. Again, also I'm going to comment this out to make sure that doesn't yeah. Console.log, and then here it is name model, and remember, name model is a function, so we must use brackets. So here we go to my car2 dot name model, and then terminate that with semicolon. So when we save, guys, you can see we are getting Benz E250. So we are getting this. So coming back here, our parameters here, this is the name, which is Benz, and this is the model, which is E250. So you also need to understand, if we did not, now name model being a method, which is a function, if you do not include the brackets and you left it like that and saved, it could have returned the method definition. And for us, our method definition is this part here. That's what you're getting here. So you have to make sure that you include your brackets to make sure that you get the results that you intended your code to give you. All right. So that is how, again, we can access properties from an object constructor function. Okay, let's try and see if we can get my car2 dot year. Let's see what we get. Yes, so you can see we are getting 2018. Okay, so this is the way you can do that. All you can use the dot notation. All you can use square brackets, then inside square brackets quotation marks, and then here, and then it should give you the same result. Having done that, let's go to the second topic, which is JavaScript Prototype. So this is a very interesting part. So JavaScript Object Prototype. Right. So what are these JavaScript prototypes? So you need to note that all JavaScript objects inherit properties and methods from a prototype. All JavaScript objects inherit properties and methods from a prototype. So what does that mean? So this means we can be able to add new properties to our object constructor function without the use, or rather without having to come and adding them now inside our constructor function itself. So we can add them outside of our constructor function. So we are going to create another function here. So I'm going to use student. Alright. Then here the students have, let's say, first name, then we have last, that's for last name, age, and probably, yeah. Then here do this dot first name is equals to first, and this dot last name is equals to last, that this dot age equals to age, like that, and this dot year equals to year, and done like that. Okay. So now the JavaScript prototype property now allows you to add new properties to an object constructor function without now having to come and adding them in here again. But we will be able to add these properties from outside here. So we are going to use student, which is our constructor function, dot. Now here we are going to use property prototype. So prototype is a property. So go prototype JavaScript property dot score. Let's say we are adding score to this function, constructor function, a student, and then we can assign a value, or a score. Okay. So here we've created, or rather now we said all JavaScript objects inherit properties and methods from a prototype. Now we are using this property name prototype, okay, to add a property to an object constructor function. Now, other than now doing it this way, we are going to add it using this way. All right. But now let's create an object of the same type before we can see the results. So we are going to create a const my students, and then here now we are going to use any keyword, as we said, by calling the constructor function by use of the new keyword. We are creating a new object, student again, and then here we are going now to use the first name James and last name Martin, and then age, say 25, and then year, second, right? Okay, so now if we come here and say console.log my student, let's see what we get. You can see still here we are not getting the score that we added to our object constructor function. But if we access this constructor, or rather this prototype, directly by doing dot then score, let's see if we are going to get what we want. Yes, so we are able to get the value, and it is part of my student variable that holds the new student object, So that's why we are able to access the score, meaning that now through use of that is the property keyword, that is the property prototype, you are able to add the score, which is B, to our student constructor function. Okay, so the same way we can add a function, or rather, sorry, we can add a method to our constructor function through the use of prototype. And again, to be able to do that, it's by doing student dot prototype dot name equals to function. Remember, as we said, a method is a function, and then here we are going to return this dot first name. All right, we use the concatenate operator, then we space, then we concatenate operator again, and this dot score. All right, so then finally we come and just copy this and we do my student dot name, and remember this is a function, so we have to use that and save. So you can see it is James and B. So meaning now this function, or rather this method, we've added this to our constructor function. Guys, thank you for watching. See you in the next one.